company are you from, Simon?
It's a company called Berwin.
Okay, that's brilliant. Just to give you background, I'm Paul Woodhouse, I'm an account manager, so I look after the Pegasus side of things, and we've got Patrick and Debbie who are part of the team. Debbie is going to obviously then show you the product, and if you've got any questions, you can then come back to us. That's a summary version of what I've just said, so that's fine. Debbie, thank you. Over to you.
Okay, well, thanks for joining me, guys. I'm just going to share my screen with you now. So just so that you know, I do actually know Capital Payroll and Capital Gold as well as Opera. So if there are any questions that you have, just please let me know. So I'm going to show you the Pegasus Business Cloud version. You don't have to have it in Business Cloud. You can have it on site, on a PC, on a laptop, on a server. It is a multiple user system. Whereas Pegasus Capital Gold, obviously, the payroll isn't. So into Citrix Workspace to start with. So this is something that you'd have instead of being installed on a server. You'd have it in the cloud, basically. So we click our Citrix Workspace, and then I have a password and a username password, and I can use MFA if I wish as well. So I've got the security there, and I can access this anywhere in the world if I really wanted to go on holiday and access the Citrix to do the payroll for whatever reason. I would hope you don't do that, but some people do. You could use this anywhere in the world. So I log on, and what I'm presented with now is this is my personal desktop for Pegasus Business Cloud. So when I log in, these are the icons that I get. This is a test server, which means that we can just play around and do things. It doesn't affect, it's not live. It's something specific that Pegasus set up. And if anybody's interested, we could always give you a username and a login just to have a look. You're not going to break it, so don't worry. It's just for demo purposes. You can load all the other stuff on here as well. Obviously, Office, Pegasus CIS, which is the construction industry software, which we'll link into Pegasus, obviously. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the Pegasus Opera 3. So when I click on my icon, it starts my app off. I'm actually downloading something in the background here. So it is going to be a little slow, so please bear with me there. And then when I log in, the first thing that it's going to do is get me to log in with my username and password. So for this particular demo, because it covers all of the ledgers, I've set up a new user called Payroll. When I got my mouse in the right location. I haven't set myself a password because obviously it's only a demo, so it's not going to do anything. And then I'm faced with my menu. Now, bear in mind, it's going to look very, very different from the Capital Payroll. It's a bit more sort of up to date, where you've got the ribbon bar that looks like the Excel Office sort of thing like this. For my purposes, I've got two tabs here, Administration tab and a HR tab, Payroll and HR, and I've got favourites as well. So I can, if I do certain things within my HR or administration, I can put them all in the favourites, and I can just click on each one as I go along, and then it's going to be easier. I don't have to go through all of these. I don't necessarily need to use every single item on this menu, so I can put my own favourites in if I want to. Same as the administration section as well. We can email payslips from here. There's a piece of software that goes on as an add-on to the Opera. It's included in the system, and it uses SQL. And this allows you then to set up the scheduler and email the payslips out for the system. What I shall do now is I'll just go through quickly. So when we get the software, it's completely blank. There's nothing in there, and you set it up very similar to the way that you'd set up the Pegasus Capital one. we would go in and we would set our options to start with. With this payroll, or with this Opera, you get 36 companies as standard, and you can also add additional systems. I think the limit for the systems is 36 systems. So you can have 36 companies within 36 systems. So it's 36 times 36, excluding Z, which is a demo data, which is what I'm using here. So I'm licensed for unlimited employees. I mean, we've got customers that have got 4 or 5. I think the most that we've got is 1,000 or something like 2,000, is it? Paul, is that Runwood? Is it like 3,000 or 4,000 or something like that?
No, they've actually got about 5,000 to 8,000.
Ah, right, okay. So they're running Pegasus Opera, and they've got that many employees. So yeah, we set up the information first of all. So this is all part of your company profile settings, if you like. And that's what we all set as part of the company profiles in Capital. We say, right, okay, so what am I going to do? Do I want to use, can I download my employee tax codes? Yes, I can, by using the provisioning service. I've got full SSP processing, full SMP, and all the standard options, and then I can save my data. This is one of the good things about Pegasus, is that you can go back and look at historical data for a long time. I've got a tax year history of 7 years here, so I set all these options up myself. Now, once I've got all these set up, then I can go in and I can start setting up my payments and my deductions. You can have 999 payments and 999 deductions. It covers all of the different options within the here. So SSP, SMP, tax credits, CIHPs, SPPs for births and adoptions, also SMP top-ups, benefits in kind. Excuse me. And it also does the Class 1A for any benefits in kind as well. So benefits in kind were supposed to be being bought in for next year, and they were going to get rid of the P11D software and just use Pegasus, just use Payroll for payrolling benefits. And they've put that back a year now, so they're looking maybe at 2027. But it is available already in Opera to use benefits in kind. You'd still have to produce a form P11DB, but that'll still allow you to do that. You have to register as well with HMRC before the before the start of the tax year to be able to do this, just so that you know that. Excuse me. So we've got people who've already registered and are already using the system, so it all seems to be working very well. We haven't got any issues with it at all. So yeah, it does everything that we need it to do. So it will tax the national insurance. If it's pensionable, it's holidayable if there's a word. Auto enrolments and flexible pensions. We also does salary sacrifices for pensions and other payments as well. Deduction profiles. So the same again, 999. Most of these are obviously pensions. We've got all of our different things, AVCs, employers' pension, holiday funds, loan repayments, national insurance adjustments, attachment orders. So everything on there. Again, HMRC is what their all requirements are. And what we do is we'll set up all these payments and all these deductions, and then we'll say, well, not all of our employees have all the same payments or all deductions. So what we do is we set up an employee profile, and we would say, okay, then, so I've got directors, management, staff, part-time temporary, contractors, staff. These are just examples. You can have as many as you like. 999. And what I say here is I'm saying if I'm in management, I'm not a director, but I do have a company car. If I'm a director, get a company car. If I'm a staff member, I don't have it. I'm not a director. I have a company car, but I might have different payment types. So I might be paid. This is going back in the day when people used to get paid by check. I think we don't think we've got anybody paid by cash. Oh, we do, just as an example of being paid by cash. But most of people obviously are paid by backs nowadays. So if I'm saying I'm a director, and my payments, I will always have basic, expenses, bonus, and SSP. And for my deductions, I would always have as pensions. Now, if I'm a management person, my payments might be basic, expenses, holiday pay, bonus, SSP, and SMP. So you can add different payments and deductions for different types of staff. And we can add more as we go along. That's good. And that applies for the deductions as well. And also a couple of things with the pensions. Some people actually have more than one actual pension set up. So you can attach the pension to each individual user. I shall show you how to do that. Obviously, it copes with auto enrolment. And if you need to enroll everybody all together, you can use a global auto enrolment. I like to do them individually. That's my personal preference, but you can do them as a global if you wish. Demonstration purposes, we've got 5 set up here. We've got a group personal pension. The standard export is Nest or Now, and they come part of the system. If there are any other pension types that you use, there would be a charge if you want to be able to produce the file. I'm not sure what you're all currently using at the moment, but we can look into that. It may be that we just use a standard Nest or Now pensions, and then if it's we produce the export contribution file or the payment file, and then we could just copy and paste the data into the relevant columns, which would make it easier for people. So we can set that up. So each one, so I might have one Nest pension, one Now pension. I might have a couple of others that I've got to set up as well. So basically everything on here. So is it net of basic tax? Is it net of basic rate for ERS or EAS? What's the percentage? I can put any percentage in there. I could put a value if I wish. So if it was something like an AVC where I wanted to pay £10 a month every time, I would just set up an AVC on here. Say it's £10 a month with the employee, and the percentage and the default contribution for the employer would be 0. And then I would fill out what does my pension contribution, what's based on? It's based on all earnings between NILEL and UEL. Custom. So there's a lot of different options that you can set up here. Gets quite complicated. Obviously need to make sure that everything's set up correctly at the very start. We'd always recommend as well that you run in parallel for at least I don't know, a week or a couple of weeks or a couple of months. There are going to be some slight changes between the tax and the NI. It's usually pences difference where the calculation is tax higher, calculate higher or lower based on the table. In theory, they should always be the same, but it's always that little rounding difference. So once I've got all my items set up in here, just one other thing. So if I wanted a weekly, in my demonstration data, I have a weekly group and a monthly group set up. I can have as many as I wish, so I can set up as many groups as I want to. So for my demonstration, I'm going to go into my weekly payroll. And this is what my employee looks like. I've tested exporting the data out of Capital, and I have managed to get all of this information into Opera. Now, the only thing that I don't like to import in is the date figures. And the simple fact is that, so a decimal point in the wrong place or an additional figure, and it can cause problems for everybody. So my preference is to key those in manually, which If it's annoying because if it was the start of the tax year, it would be fantastic because everybody would be at zero. So we just have to get all the details, all these details in, and that will be absolutely fine, and we can start off. So what my plan would be to import the data in as much as possible, get the to-date figures in as best as possible, and then take a backup of the system.
I don't know, Chris. I'm just in the middle of this webinar, payroll webinar that I'm listening to. We'll go until 10:45. So I don't think he's brought anything out to me yet. So I would say no right this minute. Okay.
And then we would take a copy of the data of the system as it was, blank, or just so that we can either then run the year end on it and produce a P60s and do the whole year end process, or just restore the data back to where it is. Paul, have Pegasus said that they will do a final update to produce a P60, or they're not going to produce a P60?
They're definitely not doing the P60s. You
Right,
can't
okay,
do the
so
end of year.
Okay, so we've got to do a P60 from here then. Okay,
Yep.
Thanks for clarifying. I wasn't quite sure. So yeah, I can import this data, and I can import into the details and bank, the bank details, the pay name and their addresses, and also if they're on a student loan or a postgrad loan. I can also import, if you're going to think about emailing payslips, I can also import email addresses and passwords. Now, with a password, if I go into, just quickly, I'll just show you this. If I generate a password, it generates some random thing that not everybody's going to remember that, and they're probably never going to remember to link the payslip to the password or the PDF so that when they try and open it. So what we suggest is if you are going to go for email payslips, use their national insurance number, because they know that, and not everybody knows everybody's national insurance number. So it is going to be a lot more secure than some random passwords that everybody's going to say, oh, I forgot my password, can you send me a new one? Which you can do because it'll do it globally, but it's just an inconvenience if they're going to do that every week. They can open these on a mobile phone, on a tablet, on an email, and these work very successfully. So to-date figures. Starter details. If they're a new starter, did you provide a pre-45? Is it unknown? How did the information come through? Is it the employee's first job since the 6th of April? We put in the gross tax and the gross pay and the tax paid for the previous tax year or the current tax year, whatever's on the P45. And then as soon as we start processing the payroll, it's going to update these figures here. And then we can send it to the P60, and then the information comes from the P60. Obviously, we'll go through all of this with you when we're going through and setting up the system. I can go back and have a look at my history. So on my history, this is my employee, and I can go back to the data for 2023. And if I go to any one of these, now this is demo data, so I'm not sure if it's going to work. There it is. So I can double click on any one of those transactions and it's installing an update. Raw. Oh,
I'm just going. Yeah, it worked. Yeah. Just say that.
And there it is. Sorry. Eventually got there. Oh, I'm getting a bit of background noise there. Can we have a mute on the microphones, please, if that's possible? Perfect. Thank you very much. So just going back to historical data, if I wanted to have a look at a PDF payslip for somebody, I could just go into their period history, double click on the pay period and produce a payslip for them so that I can email it over to them if I want to. Oh, sorry. Do that every time. So I can email that payslip over, and if I go back in there, I can click on there and send. If it was an email payslip, I can just click on that action button and go resend email payslip. I can resend an email P60, and if I wanted to go into the to date values on there, I could just click on that, and these are my to date values in a summary format. Any one of these columns I could right click on and copy the data. I could copy that directly into Excel if I needed to do some analysis. Also within that historical information, there's the tax year. So the tax year, these are the previous tax years that save the information for. I can double click on one of those. Oh, sorry, NI values. I can look at my NI details there. And then I can go in and then I can reprint a P60 if I needed to. And then if I've received some information, somebody said, oh, you need to go back in and you need to change some data on here, on this customer, on this employee. I can go into this and I can revise my data. So this is at the end of 21-22. There might have been some value that's changed, or I might have missed off something, or I should have put something on when I was putting them on as a new employee. So I can go into here, I can make the changes that I need. It will save those changes. And then I can go into HMRC Online and do a prior year submission, and it'll send that back off to HMRC for me. Pensions, I've got my auto enrolment details here. They're a lot more in depth than the ones in Capital. So there's a lot more information within there. And the auto enrolment settings are within the parameter settings for the regulators. So they're all there as well that you can see. And then I can go into my pension. And this is where it gets interesting, because these employees might have more than one pension, or they might have an AVC linked as well. So you can just set them all up. You can tell them when the start date was, what date they joined, have they left the pension, are they what contributions there are, what the to-date contributions are. So all of the information is available, and we can report on this. And then if I want to start doing my payments and deductions, so I click on my payments and deductions, and this is my, it's slightly different from obviously Pegasus Capital. Each individual user has their own tab of payments and deductions. I can do a quick calculate on this employee. Has that gone out? Oh, there it is. So I can do a quick calculation on that employee there, and I can find out what their net pay would be for this week. Moving forwards by my arrow or backwards by my arrow. And I can also use my list tab if I want to find an employee. It's a Control F, or I can use these binoculars at the bottom. I've got a little toolbar here. If I wanted to create a new record, it's Control N or white sheet of paper. It's fairly explanatory, really. If I want to save a record, it's Control S or click the disk. Moving forwards or backwards, search for a record, copy data. Sometimes you can use the copy data function if you were using, I think it's mostly on the other ledgers really. If you were using things like copying supply codes or sales codes from the nominal ledger, it will allow you to do that. Print a list, you can use the printer icon. I can right click, copy the data so I can get a full list of all my employees. And then once I've done my payments and deductions, I've moved through all my payments, all my deductions, finished my payments and deductions. I go to my calculation, and what I'm doing now is I'm running a global calculation for all my employees. So it's a bit like do the payroll. And I get a report out of this, and it's an exceptions report that tells me Mr. Gardner hasn't got enough pay for charity. Miss Johnson's on maternity, but she's not entitled to SMP. And Miss Burgess has got an SMP payment this period. So things like if there's a tax code change that needs to be made, or a national insurance code, so somebody's reached retirement age, it ticks all those information. Also, if you've got employees that are younger, that's apprentice, it'll mention all of those. And then once I've done that, I could go into my summary reports. There's 3 that I always do: this period summary, a to-date summary, and departmental analysis. I always run the this period summary just to check everybody's been paid. Sometimes you get distracted and it's easy to miss something. With all my to-date figures, all the data for this particular period. So all these are all my employees for the weekly. Tells me that's my period 7. I can print these out, or I can save them as a PDF somewhere. Or if I wanted to, when I'm doing my reports, I can use my drop-down arrow and save them as an Excel report, either by, I always use 111 for my test. And what it does now is I've ticked the box to say open when done. So what it's doing now is it's going to go away. Hopefully this is going to work. And it's going to create my output. And in a moment, there's my Excel. So it just produces it and sends it directly to Excel. So I shall leave that there for a moment. And again, with my to-date summary, I can do exactly the same. And I'll do it by department sequence. I better do 112, hadn't I? So there we are. So that's my to-date by employee. I did it by employee. So that's my to-date. Those are my to-date figures on there. The other thing that we can do as well, I'll just finish going through this. So there's my departmental analysis. I'm just going to send that to, I can include my levers on here. I'm just going to send this to screen. And it shows me the information, my net pay and the gross pay. Gives me an analysis. Still got the coin analysis on there, going back in the day. And then it gives me a company totals. Company totals at the end. So it tells me my total pension deductions, which pension profiles they are, and which payment profiles that I've used. And then my pay slips. I can design my pay slips to be whatever I like. There are some standard ones. It says printer or email. If I just say email, this might not work. I've got one employee that's got email pay slips. So if I say OK to that, so what it'll do is it'll print me off, and this is what my pay slip looks like. So this is what the employee will actually receive. But I could design this to look however I like. So if you like to stick with the current pay slip that you've got, you can design it so that it looks like that. You can even add logos on these. It looks quite smart if you've got a company logo. And then they can send that through. So what that basically does then is in the email admin, this is where you set up all your email pay slips. So you set up the employee details, but we can import those in. So if we've got people in there, I could go into there and I could just set these up manually via this section here, or I could create a spreadsheet and put all the data in, and I can import that information through. Then we design our email covers. So if I will say, for example, say welcome, we're going to say start sending pay slips and P60s. You can also do the P45s on this as well. You'll receive them. So you send out a welcome letter first of all. Then you send out a password and then the pay slip. And obviously then after that, P60 and P45 if necessary. We've got periodical reports for P45. There's an employee record print, all of the different benefits. So we can see what those are. All our pension reports, there's our enrolment file and our contribution file. Employee age list. I'll just quickly do an employee age list on this. I can click both groups at the same time. I don't have to have them in a specific range, in a specific order. What do I want? 4. So I'm doing a year's worth of information, and have I got anybody? I've got one person here, Mr. Foster, that's reached 65. That report should be updated actually, because it should be 66 now. Ready for those people. And we've got an age 21 there. So that person, when we get to that date, 24th of the 12th, she's going to be 21. So we've got to look at her pay and make sure everything's up to date for her. End of year special reports. I've got something called an advanced payments and deductions list. So not only can I go into each employee individually and pull out information, I can also do a global pull out of information. So if I wanted to go back to 22-23 and find out what basic pay, what overtime pay, and what commissions were done for that year, I don't want any deductions. I can produce a report. Again, I can produce a report in Excel. I'll do 113. This also has gender on here, so I can do male and female. This has been in place for quite a long time, actually. It looks like it's doing nothing, but because I'm downloading some data in the background at the moment, so that's why my machine's a little bit sluggish. It's actually going through 22-23. It's going through 53 weeks. So now there's all my data. Tells me my all of my data from the periods, every period that was through there, and tells me all of my data, all of the information through there, all the way down to, and then I can use this for my analysis, of course, and do all my reports and so on. I've also got this option called a view, where I can go in and do a quick view for the same sort of things. So I can look at payments. I want to display the units. I want to look at the code in the description. And then if I do a view and change the date, I'll go back to, so I don't know, August the 1st, do a refresh. There's no data found. What have I missed? Oops, the wrong way. Oh, sorry, missed this important part out. Let's change that to. So if I wanted to do a whole year's worth, oh, I'm still not getting anything. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's completely. Thank you, Debbie. Now I get a list of all my employees, and if I split that down, I can see what basic and what overtime I had going back. And then again, I can copy that data and go into Excel and then paste it in, Control V, and that just pastes in my data. So I could create reports from here, and I can just do, just say if I wanted to do it by group and do a refresh, double click on that and it will show me that information. I can copy that data and I go into Excel to sheet 2 and Control V, and that gives me all of that data. So I can pick the information up and it's quick and easy. So I've got the facility to look back on all data for all periods. As long as I get these set up correctly in the parameter settings, I never have to change these. I can always look back on old data. I can always report on old data, and I can always edit things if necessary. When I'm sending off HMRC online, I go into a full payment submission and I choose my payments. I create my FPS. Next, tells me how many employees there are, what the tax NI is. Obviously, I've checked that beforehand, and I do a FPS to say OK. Send that to the printer or the screen, take a copy, usually save everything as a PDF, to be honest. And then I create the file, and then I can say yes to that. OK. And then I want to submit the file. So what it does is it goes off and it opens up my online filing manager, because it's slightly different to Capital, because with Capital you just click the button and it sends it basically, but with this it opens up a different section, a different piece of software, and sends it via this, and I just go next, make sure it's okay. I haven't got any users set up or agents or anything like that, so I need to set these up first, but you can see from the demo purposes that's basically what it does. Once it's sent, it will tell it that's sent, and then it takes a backup of it. It doesn't delete it, it takes a backup of that, so you can always refer back to it. And then when you're sending paying an employee, you will create a BACS file. I'm assuming this is what you do. This is the BACS file. Send it off to somebody to confirm it, and then its BACS file is successfully created. So I then can go into my bank software and I can upload that directly from my bank software. Is there anything specific anybody wants to go through, just to or does anybody have any questions? Have I missed something that you'd like me to look at or go through? Or
the HMRC thing,
yeah,
on Pegasus, when you don't submit it, there's a question to say it's going to be late. It says,
yes,
why haven't you submitted it?
correct.
Does this have the same thing?
Yes.
And if it
So
does, are we going to have problems when we running it in parallel?
no, you just don't send one from here.
Oh, okay. And will the software remind you that?
Yes.
Why haven't you sent
it?
it?
It does actually. So if it's a late reporting reason for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So say for example, you've missed somebody or they've missed something, so you need to just only include a specific employee.
Yeah.
I would do this. I would go, I would select H, correction to an earlier submission. And then when I say next, I would put the employee number in there.
Yeah.
And I would just send it for that one person.
Okay.
You know, for whatever reason, I need to do that. And then it'll take that and it'll allow that to be sent off.
Because obviously, if we're running it parallel for a couple of months, that's basically about 3 months, 2 or 3 months, we're not being sent.
Correct. But it won't be sent from here. But if you do a payroll update, let me just show you what happens. So basically what it does is it says, has the calculation been run? And there's a tick. And has the FPS been created? And it has a tick. Now, if there's no ticks on these, it will moan at you like mad and said, are you sure? Have you done this? Are you sure? And so if I go to the update on the nominal, because I can't, the monthly, have I done the same? Right, okay, so calculation and the BACS, let me just show you what happens. So first of all, it say, use this form to clear the employer contributions to be paid in the selected pension schemes. So I say, okay, that. So I'm going to do this now. And then it's going to say, have you have you done the reports and taken a backup before you done this? And I think, oh God, I forgot to take the backup. So I say no, and then I could go off, take my backup first of all. So that's the first thing that I do. So I would not include my additional files because these are every payslip or every report or everything that you save will be backed up as well. You don't really want to do that unless it's like at the year end or something, just so that you've always got that information available. And then I would say next and start it off. And then I would say I'll do it now. I'm not going to do it. Now, once I've done my backup, I go back in then and I do my payroll update for my monthly. So now I say, yep, that's okay. I'm happy with that. I want to carry on. I want to do it now. Say okay. And it'll automatically cancel if any pay period process have not yet been run. So if I carry on and say okay and say, yeah, it failed. And it says, because my backs hasn't been run. So it won't let me do it unless I've done everything that I'm supposed to. So it's a good checker to make sure that you do everything. Pay periods, so everything works on a calendar. So on the monthly payroll, for example, we've got a calendar here. So our month starts from the 1st to go to the 30th. And every time I do a payroll update, it does a little tick in the box. So if ever I forget and I come in to do the payroll, I think, oh God, have I done the payroll update yet? And I can go in there and go, no, I haven't, because it's still there. So I can go in and do the payroll update. And again, the same thing happens for the weekly payroll. Obviously, that's the 52 or 53 weeks. And I can tell from there if I've been doing my payroll updates there. And obviously, this does take, it's a weekly, this one. We've got weekly, 2 weekly, 4 weekly, monthly. So you can do a fortnight payroll, a weekly payroll, a monthly payroll, a 4 weekly payroll. Covers all of those. I can always say find out which pay period I'm in by clicking that yes button. And then I can say my last calculation was 1, this calculation is 2. So I know I've done my payroll update. I can do a nominal analysis. Now, if I haven't got the payroll set up in the system, I can actually set up, you'll notice in the maintenance section here, we've got some nominal codes and things like that. I can create some nominal accounts. So I can produce a journal for my nominal accounts. So they can, when I do my nominal analysis, it will do that for me. So I can just take that journal and then I can key it into my account system, whatever that may be. The cash book transfer, obviously that's not going to apply if you haven't got cash book linked to the system, because obviously Opera comes with all modules. It does all of the modules. And you've got things like just nominal ledger, just the national insurance. So sometimes if you've the one thing that usually happens is you've got somebody who's changed to a C code, but they haven't told you for like 6 months, and all of a sudden they tell you, oh, by the way, my code changed, and you didn't even know. So sometimes you have to come in and do an NI adjustment on here, which will recalculate everything. So it does cater for that as well. What else I can think of? National insurance tables. Obviously, these are where the tables are here. We've got table 1. When we do slightly different for Pegasus, when you're doing year ends, because we can install the software upgrades way in advance of doing the payroll year ends, so we don't have to wait to the last 5 minutes to do these. They usually come out around February time, so we have February, March and April to do these payroll upgrades, so they're not all done in one mad rush. And what happens is the payroll upgrade comes out and the tax table, the date becomes effective. Is the date that once you've done the payroll year ends, obviously the table will become effective. So in effect, what we did this time was the last tax year, 23-24. Not this one, actually, it's 24-25. So I've got a year's, I'm a year out on my data. So this is typical of demo data. So what I would have on here is the date that my table started. So I could install this in February and the tax tables will be fine until the beginning of the tax year, which is really good. I was thinking of something else. P32 processing. So this is my P32. I can go through my P32 here, I can show a full. So I can show by the week, so every 4 weeks, and then it gives me a total at the end. I can click on there, I can do drill downs on the data. So these are my individual figures. I can right click and copy the data and do some analysis and Control V. So there's all my analysis on there. And again, I can do that on here. So I could right click on copy the data there and go in, and I'll just do it underneath here. It's all to do with P32. So there's all my data for the P32. Obviously that builds up as I go along. We've got things like funding. If I want to pay, so if I'm doing my payments on here, so that it will reflect my payments to HMRC, I could go in here and I can produce a payment. So for my period 2, I can say those are my payments and that's how much I'm paying. So I say OK to that and say OK, and then it will update my system and tell me what date I actually paid it. So I can go through and create my next payment. Well, I've only got 2 months, so that's a bit awkward. So I've only got 2 months on here anyway, so I can create those. Global changes. I can, when I do my payroll year end, sometimes, and this does happen, if somebody gets you're in the middle of doing something, you get distracted, and you suddenly come along and you think, oh blimey, all the details are there from last year. Where are they? Why are they all there? So you go through this procedure when you do a payroll year end, you clear all the balances down, and that's all part of the payroll year end onto the end of year special reports. And you do an end of year clear down, and what that does is it clears all the data and moves you on 1 year. So you might do this and forget to actually clear down the data. So you move forward, but you forget to clear the data down. So you could go into here and you can do the zero-wise payments and deduction balances. So it's not the end of the world if you forget to do something when you're doing a year end. We'd always make you suggest you take a backup before you do anything, obviously, before you do the end of year. And it also comes with a mini personnel system. So basically, this is the data from the payroll. When you create a new employee, you can either put them in through the personnel processing, or you can put them in as a payroll through the payroll. If you put them through personnel processing, they do not become an employee until you have given them a profile. They've got to have a profile to become an employee, because the system needs to know how they're getting paid, whether it's by backs or whatever, and what payments and deductions they're going to have. So if you know that you're going to have some employees coming in and they're all going to be starting in a month's time, you can get them all set up ready so that when they do actually start, the proper start date, you can enter that in, and then you can go into the process inside of it and you can create the enter in the profile, and then they'll be alive. There are also employees on here that are historical employees. So if I exclude them and I look at my list here, that's my little list to 519. If I include my historical, that's all the data in there. I didn't actually know who was historical. If I go into my general tab and I move around like so, that person there is a personnel only. So I know that that person is actually a historical employee because they're on personnel only. If you have an employee that hands in their notice in the current period, and then they decide that they don't want to leave, you can actually put them as you can actually reinstate the leaver as long as they are in the current pay period. If they if you do this is a really, because this is a HMRC thing. If
Sorry,
you have,
sorry to interrupt. Are you able to repeat that? You keep breaking up, so I missed that last bit.
oh, sorry. So if you have an employee that hands in their notice in the current pay period, and you've processed everything and you're just about to send everything off, and they say, oh, I don't want to leave, I'd like to stay where I am now, you can actually just reinstate the leaver. You don't have to mark, because you've marked them as a leaver, you've printed a P45, you haven't updated the payroll, but you could just reinstate them as a leaver. You could just reinstate them back into the as an employee. Now, if they've reinstated after you've done a payroll update, then you have to go in and create them a new employee number because of HMRC's rules, because of the way that HMRC works. But yeah, you can actually do it in the same pay period. So if they're a monthly paid, for example, they came to you on the 1st of the month and said, I'm leaving on the 30th. Here's my details. So you've processed him, you created his P45 and everything, and then he comes back to you on the 15th and says, actually, I'm not going to leave now. So then you can just go back in and reinstate him and run him as a normal employee. There is the option to override. So if there is a reason for you've got to override his tax or NI for whatever reason, so you can do that as well. Transfer. If you have an employee who's going to transfer from a weekly payroll to a monthly payroll, you can do this as long as you make sure that you do it after you've done a payroll update. Because if you transfer somebody for a weekly, for example, from weekly to a monthly, and you haven't done a payroll update, you will lose the pay for that pay period. They've still got paid. They've still got a pay slip, but you won't be able to see the historical information because the system doesn't believe that they are a weekly payroll person. They will be a monthly payroll person, if that makes sense. And then if their employee number changes for whatever reason, you can say you can transfer them to a new employee reference. So I could change 3002 to 5999. And then it's just changed over to 5999. And then if I do an F6 to calculate, so if I've made any changes, we still always do a calculation afterwards. So my to-date figures are fine. All my old history is fine. So we know that I've just transferred him to a new employee number for whatever reason. If I've got a clocking in system, or any type of clocking in system, I can get a piece of software that will create a template. So I could create any sort of template and I can map it to that particular piece of software. And I could just import the data straight in, and it just, I don't even have to key any data in. I can just basically import the data in and let it carry on. And then I just basically run the calculation and do my reports. So I can just import data in very easily. Data going out, as you can tell, you can just produce them either printed reports, you can do PDF reports, or you can do Excel reports. Not all reports are Excel based reports, but we can do we can actually change those if necessary and do ourselves. I don't know if there's anything else that I can think of. There is in the personnel section, there is an absence section. So if you were wanting to look at holidays and things like this is the best way to do this, do a holiday report through this. It's very basic. You probably might be able to do something better within Excel or something like that, or XRL. XRL is a piece of software that links you. So you go into Pegasus here, into Opera here. Oh, let's not set up properly. I'd have to check that. So basically, there's a piece of software called XRL. It's an add-on. It allows you to interrogate the data in Opera, whichever tables it is that you want to look at. So because this particular system's got sales, purchase, nominal, it's got the whole suite, I can produce a report in any table I want to, in any format that I prefer. So I've taken nearly an hour. I didn't expect to do that, sorry. I've gone on for far too long. If there are any questions, if you have any, or you want to look at something else in depth, then that's absolutely fine too.
Thank you, Debbie, for that. That's great. I mean, we've obviously gone through a lot of stuff there, and you might think, well, I suspect I probably won't be using all of that. Well, then you don't use all of that. The point is that with this particular product, you can go from very simple to very complicated and halfway as well. So not all of that stuff will be used. Now, the idea is that we would then help you transition between Capital and Opera, and we will then handhold you through that process. So if it's a daunting prospect to look at this and think, oh, I don't really understand it, well, we will help you through that, and then obviously help you through the process of what you do. I mean, fundamentally what happens is you process the payroll, you calculate the payroll, you run your reports, and you submit, which is currently what you do now. So that doesn't change any. And probably what will happen is, if it's okay with you, unless you want to do it a different way, I will probably give you a call at some point, talk about obviously the demo we've got, and then talk about the next steps about transitioning you through to this particular product, if that's the requirement you want. I think I saw a question there. Obviously, we've taken a lot of your time up. Is there any information migration, or does it need manual input? We have a method of migrating the data from your Capital into the new one, but there will be a bit that Debbie said that we'll probably have to do manually, but that won't be that much. That be right, Debbie?
Yeah. So with Capital, it's quite difficult to get the information out in the format that you need it to be in. I try to get the data out using the reporting functions, all the different employee details and so on. You can export the data, but it doesn't export it out into an easy format, and you have to fiddle around with a lot of the things, moving stuff, because for some reason it just takes absolutely everything on the report and just dumps it straight into Excel. So it's not like a specially designed report. And then, or else, the only other way that I could find out how to do it was to use the quick reporting function. But then that only allows you to pick 5 items at a time. Excuse me. So some of those caused me a bit of an issue when I was trying to pull that data out. So as long as I can create the reports, well, I have created the reports. I know I can do it, because that I wouldn't have said that we could do it if I didn't know that we could. So yeah, we can actually do that. And we can pull that data out for you, get it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then we use a piece of software called Peglink, which is something that you created an employee template. So I create a new employee template, and basically I just import all of the new employee data into Opera.
Yeah.
And it's the to-date figures that cause the issue, because I'm always loath to do those, because of the fact that, like I said, sometimes a decimal place in the wrong point or something like that, and it screws up all the data. I suppose there is a possibility. It depends on how many employees there are. If there are less than 50, I would sort of like, say, oh, well, you could probably just key those in, because it would be more of it would be part of the training exercise as well. So moving around Opera, finding employees, keying in, getting too used to keying data in, it would all be part of the system, really. That's
Okay.
my point of view, sort of thing. But I mean, if you want, we can always give you a login for the Citrix, can't we? Can we, Paul? I'm not sure. I think we used to do that before.
Yeah, we can do. We have to get permission to do that. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
But what we'll do is I'll chat with you in the next week or so, and we can have a conversation about where we go, and then we can, if you have any questions at that point, we can then go through that as well. Hope that was okay. Thank you very much for your time. Mara's just replying. And then we've taken up an hour of your time already. Oh, Chen, could you email the pricing structure? Yeah, I'll talk to you, Chen, about the pricing options, because there's 2 different options we've got available to us. I'm just waiting for Pegasus to confirm what they're going to give us as discount for the fact that you've got Capital Gold already. But anyway, but other than that, thank you very much for your time, and I'll contact you in the next week if that's acceptable for you. And Debbie, thank you very much for your time.
No, you're very welcome. And if there are any questions, if you'd like to drop me an email, my email address is d.lane@fifosys.com, and I can pick those up for you. So if there's anything that you specifically you want to look at, or if just a generalization, or if there's any information that we could send to you, you're more than welcome, more than happy to do that for you.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat so people got that email address, and I'll put my one in as well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, I've stopped recording. I think
Excellent.
that's it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Lovely. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch for the next few days anyway. Good. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Thank
thanks
you.
then. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chen.
It's all right.